Cool. There you go.
Hello, everybody. So, Never Lost podcast here with Hamish Stansfeld. And we are doing our part two
Yeah,
chat, going into depth of the Kundalini and how it manifests physical and emotional symptoms that can be overwhelming and draining and severely intense for people. Um, and some people just have an easy ride, it seems of it, but a lot of us have a very challenging ride. And so I thought we could chat about how it shows up for you and for me and other people that we've chatted with. And there's some kind of common um, happenings that you see with energy movements, body changes, emotion changes, thinking and thought changes. So, yeah, with all that being said, how has it been progressing for you? Since we last chatted, you had a lot of energy surging in the body.
mm,
And I wanted to see like how it's manifesting for you now and
yeah,
how the physical symptoms have manifested in the emotion symptoms as well.
sure, sure. I'll just preface my introduction by saying that I'm just describing my experience because I don't really know what's happening ultimately. Like it's just really surreal. So all I can do is just share
Yeah.
the way it feels here, the way it's kind of been. So don't take anything I say too seriously or to heart. But for me, when this
Yeah.
happened, I like I said in my last video, I had a successful yoga session and I took a bunch of acid and stuff one night. I was already into non-duality, so I was listening to a lot of that. I felt very calm, and all these knots in my body came undone, and that was the first dramatic sign that I knew that something was up. And so now we're about 1 year and 4 months into this, and I would say that the at the beginning, the emotional aspect, and I've no idea what's to come, what's around the corner, but the emotional aspect, all the emotional stuff was very early on. So lots of crying,
Yeah.
lots of really
Yeah.
intense crying,
Yeah.
um, kind of like I guess kind of like mourning the loss of the reality that I thought was true, this idea that I'm going to
Mm.
get somewhere or that I'm going to find comfort or God or I'll get all my ducks lined in a row one day and it's all leading to somewhere. And the,
Yes.
the death of that ideal is is a real fucker for the body mind. Like it's just, but
Totally.
it wasn't horrific. It was the way I experienced it. It was cathartic. It was kind of a beautiful crying. It wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going crazy or this is horrible. It was just like, I mean, I've always enjoyed crying because it's just something that wants to come up and out, right? So I
Mm.
was kind of enjoying it in a weird way, like, but it was
Yeah.
intense and it was a lot of, and
Yeah.
also sort of crying for that, and but also for seeing that and then seeing also the human condition that oh everyone is trapped in that in a way and then kind of weeping for humanity,
Mhm.
the fact that everyone's just going through this simultaneously, so lots of crying,
Yeah.
and that kind of emptied out eventually. The crying stopped, run its course, and then there was more peace. The movements have been continuous. They started with little shoulder poppings, and now it's full on yoga, climbing up the wall, doing headstands, standing yoga. I stand up and my hand grabs my leg and pulls it out. Recently it's been trying to push me into a lotus, like just wrenching my legs into a
Yeah.
lotus, because then you finding yourselves in these weird positions, and then the whole mark on the head. It's become
Yeah.
more and more physical. So emotional and now full on physical, I would say. That's kind of been the progression.
That's so interesting because it's almost like it's really revealing that you're not the one in control, you're not the doer. It's just
Yeah,
energy, life force moving through us.
yeah,
And we get so rigid, like, I must create, I must do, I am the creator,
yes.
And it's almost like with the Kundalini, it's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you think you're going that
Mm-hmm.
way, no, you're going that way,
A
you
hundred
know?
percent. Yes, like you're not the boss. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, and it's almost like it's teaching you to surrender to what is, and when you're fighting it, it's perpetuating more suffering in the body. And I know this through my personal experience. I mean, it's all we can speak about is what's happened to us and find the commonalities. But it was like intense waves of deep suffering. Like you can't even think that your body can hold so much suffering and so much emotion coming forth. And then it's like you just have to surrender to it and let it dissipate. And yeah, it's so body felt, right? It's just
Mhm.
so in the body, moving you along. And you're like, well, I really thought I had control of my thoughts and my mind, my body, all of this. Like I thought I was doing it all. And then when this happens, it's like, I mean, it just shakes up your paradigm, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, to me, it's like, it's kind of akin to discovering that the world is round after thinking it was flat. It's that kind of like a wait, what? It's an absolute total paradigm shift that you just have to run along with. Like, okay, this is reality now. Totally different feel, totally different vibe, but it's great. It's exciting, and
Yeah,
to be honest, most of it has been very enjoyable. There's been much more curiosity about
really.
it, much more peace than there has
Hmm.
been emotional and trauma and stuff. Although I have the sense that that's probably going to come at some
Yeah.
point, because I did have a dark night, but it wasn't anything to write home about. It was over very
Ah,
quickly. It was just this energetic shift of like complete, just all of the options of possibility just closing in on themselves. You know what I mean? Nowhere to go, kind of like
yeah.
the end of seeking, I guess, though I doubt myself. Sometimes I think I'm subtly still seeking because I don't understand non-duality and all those conceptual things. But anyway, I would say that my experience so far has been pretty good. I'm fascinated by it. And so at the moment I've got a lot of energy going up to my head. When I get into the bath, in particular, a lot of energy just goes up to my head in the heat and the sauna. I like to go to the sauna as well, and
Ah,
I'm trying to let it just circulate around my
ah,
head because my tendency is to squeeze my head, almost like to suppress it. And I was doing a yoga lesson the other day, and
yeah.
someone cottoned on to the fact that I'm going. I don't know what these yoga teachers know about Kundalini, but when I turn up, they've cottoned on that something's going on with me just because weird things happen. Um, but they were saying, don't squeeze your head, just let it in, let it all up and in. So I'm trying to sort of purposefully just
Yeah,
kind of relax this whole area. Um, but I think the main thing with me
yeah.
is this bloody mark on my face, and that's the most daunting aspect of this, because there's no sign of it stopping. I have to walk around with this thing on my head. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah, you should definitely get the avatar tattoo there, like we talked about.
yeah. I'm wondering if I got a tattoo and made it permanent, maybe the energy would stop doing it. Like, does it know? Does it know there's a tattoo underneath, or is it just automatically? It would be a cool experiment. I've no idea. Uh,
I would wonder, like with you, if you had acupuncture and move some of that energy, if it would flow better. Just a thought, because working with people, and I think I told you the other day, I'm a woman who's initiated her Kundalini energy. It's just starting
yeah,
to rise, and I can.
yeah.
It's weird now, because you can kind of spot it on another or feel it on
Mm,
another. And so just working with patients, and I saw all the signs and symptoms, and I was like, oh
yeah,
gosh, this is about about to get heavy.
yeah.
And just working to move some of the stagnant
Mhm,
energy
mhm.
through the acupuncture.
Oh, you're doing okay. Would you recommend Reiki as well, or acupuncture? Acupuncture. I've never done acupuncture, but it
Yeah,
sounds.
I'd be curious to see. I don't know anybody in England who does it, but yeah, just how the energy would move through you with
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah,
did
just a
have. I
thought.
had some. I had some tantric sex experiences with a woman who's really knows what she's doing in that area. And she was just moving the body, the energy through me at will. It was crazy, like from the feet to the head. She was like, imagine the energy coming from your feet. I mean, and then it will just come from the ground up, and very intense.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it helped. I mean, the thing is, the energy is moving a lot it feels like
Right.
it's working, it's doing its thing. I don't feel like I have any issues, it's just, it's constant create. As long as I allow it to do what it wants, I've got to move every day. And now, even when I'm walking in the street, I'm walking like that, and I've given up on trying to look normal. I'm just literally like, if I relax now, this is what happened.
Oh my
So
goodness.
that's my life every day,
That's
pretty much.
intense.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
walk to work, I'm on the bus doing that. And you can imagine the looks I get, especially if I don't have my hat on. And if this is quite
Yeah.
pronounced, and I'm going, I don't know what people are
Oh
thinking.
my gosh.
And then
Well,
when
at
I
least
lie
you're taking
down,
it in stride. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like I said, I'm kind of enjoying it. Well, I am enjoying it. I'm just so
Yeah.
curious about it, and I'm
Yeah.
totally giving myself to it. It's already got so much control of my body that it will be folly to try and stifle it, or
Hmm.
fight it. I think that would be very unwise. Um,
Tell me
but
about your sleep. Are you able to sleep through the
yeah,
night?
sleep's
Yeah.
good.
Are you?
Sleep's good. I just pass out, assuming I've done my movements in the day. Otherwise, it might attack me in the night, if I have
Yeah.
it sometime. Actually, the last few nights, it's been tackling I've always had really severe acid reflux, which is where there's like a little valve in your stomach that it should be closed, but it's kind of open a little bit. So when you
Hmm.
eat fatty foods, or it can
Right.
come up with that. And I've had that for years, just huge amounts of damage to my esophagus from acid coming up.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's one of
Okay.
the main things it's been tackling right from the beginning, is this particular issue. So normally my hands it'll probably do it now if I put them there. Okay, never does what I want it to. But normally it just goes bang, 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 like really hard like that. And then in the night I was lying down, and it felt all the energy was going right to where it hurts, and you can just feel it trying to undo it, trying to heal it. So in the same way that I feel knots coming down in my back and they come
Yeah.
spiraling out of tension, it's almost like this is a knot, and that's coming out of spiraling out of
An energetic knot.
an energetic
Yeah.
knot. I
Because,
think that's what it
okay,
is.
so if we talk like within Chinese medicine, each organ is tied to an emotion
Oh,
and also a flavor of a food.
oh.
And it can get stagnated if you're eating too much of a specific something, like too much sweets will aggravate the
Yeah,
spleen, or so much stress and worry will
yeah,
aggravate the spleen, or like the digestive system.
right.
So it could be clearing out energetically that emotion and that attachment
Could
to
be.
that specific space. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I
yeah.
might try acupuncture though. It sounds like it would help with this. It sounds like it's the kind of thing that would.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that's so interesting because we have these patterns we hold in our body.
Hmm.
And this is one thing that I love chatting about that I can't really chat much about within non-duality.
Yeah, yeah,
But like we have these energetic patterns that are being held in the body. And it's so weird because I don't know how it is for you there. You can never tell what it's like for somebody else. But
yeah.
like for me, it's almost like a thought arises and it's embodied and you're not doing it. It's just this kind of like this almost pre-programmed thing within the subconscious that it keeps
Uh-huh,
arising again and again
uh-huh,
until it's
uh-huh.
addressed. And
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
almost,
100%. Yeah,
yeah, and it's almost like the Kundalini is addressing it for you there.
yeah, yeah. That resonates. That resonates
Does that make
completely. It,
sense?
it reminds
Yeah.
me of Carl Jung. You're bound to repeat your destiny until it's faced, or something like that. These cycles that life will keep throwing you the same situation until they're sort of transcended. That is that kind of idea, but in a
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
physical way, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't
Yeah.
experienced that directly, but certainly it makes sense to me when you say that's the way it
Yeah.
probably works. And I think that is what Kundalini is doing. It's kind of like when you take acid. What's happening when you take acid? Well, everything's being amplified to the max. So the light becomes
Yeah.
way brighter. Your emotions, if you have anger, it's like fight. If you have fear, it's like holy shit, you can have some
Holy
dark
crap,
times.
right?
And it's
Yes.
similar with Kundalini. It's like coming up on a drug. Everything's being amplified, and
Yes.
there's no going away
Amplified.
from it. There's no this time. There's
Can't.
no
Yeah.
coming down. You're not
And
coming back
it
down.
Yeah, that's so crazy you say that, because it's like the fear, like you said, is amplified. Like,
Mhm.
like I'm like, oh, so this is what fear is, because like people will do everything to block out,
Right.
like you distract from
Mm.
actually fully feeling your emotions. And when they're fully felt, it's like, oh my God, this is what anger is.
Yeah.
This and it's interesting too, like because within the spirituality realm, which I came from, spiritual friends, spiritual groups, it was always like vibrate higher, transcend these emotions. These emotions are no good. And then when you hit the
Yes. Or
Kundalini,
detach.
yes, then when you hit the Kundalini, you have no choice. Like,
No.
and
Yeah.
then I think a lot of suffering comes from, actually, this is interesting. I'm putting it two and two together. I think a lot of the suffering is coming from the sense of, oh, I shouldn't be feeling fear because it's a lower frequency emotion. I need to shift
Mm.
or meditate or shift into that love space, or I need it. It can't be this. It can't be the
Absolutely.
fear. It can't be the anger. It's got to be a higher vibration. And so that creates even more suffering, because you're like, oh, it shouldn't be like this.
Yeah, and I think that it shouldn't be, or I shouldn't be, is one of the main things that people trip up on, and that trips me up all the time. It's like the kind of
Yeah.
thoughts I'm having, like I shouldn't be having that kind of thought. Not at this stage. That's such an egoic thought, man. It's like, what? That can't be right. A lot of like what should and shouldn't be. There's this constant, and I don't really pay attention to it as much as I don't take it seriously. But that pattern is still there. I'm not there
Yeah.
yet, or I'm not. This shouldn't be happening, or yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's in all that too. Like
Mm.
everything arising is fair game, right? Because it's every possibility.
Mhm.
So it's like, I think just, and I'm not giving a prescription to anybody because everybody's so unique and I can't say do this or do that. But the more I sat with the fear and sat with the anger and let it pass through, the easier it seems to get.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, for me, compared to the other people I've spoken to, my ride has actually been fairly easy, like very dramatic physically, but not a lot
Yeah.
of fear, not a lot of fear yet at all. But I
Yeah.
do listen, I watch podcasts, I listen to a lot of people, and you can have Kundalini energy, and it's only 7 years down the line, all your demons come out, and so you just don't know. You just don't know. At the
You
moment,
don't
I
know.
feel good, and there hasn't
Yeah.
been a lot of fear, and partly there's just
Yeah.
so much trust in this, especially with this mark on my face, like that helps.
Mhm.
I think if I got an energy put in that there, like I think that's probably a good thing, right? And there's just so much trust in the way it moves me, and it's been gentle with me, and it's just kind of at the beginning, the Kriya were almost like sort of caressing. Actually, it's quite interesting. The first stage, it was almost like this loving, motherly energy. It's like I've got you in my arms. Like it would rock me to
Oh.
sleep sometimes. I was like, oh, that's beautiful. And then it
Oh.
started to knock me around, and I was like, right, Dad's home now. It was kind of like now he's got my trust. I can grab his head and neck and squeeze him and pull him in. And I'm like, oh, I see what you're
Make him
doing.
a bitch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely made me the whoever we're talking about bitch. I'm the biggest bitch. I think that's what this is. I'm the biggest bitch right here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you didn't have like find other people, or you were going through this alone, I mean, it would be like, I
Right.
can see why people go to mental institutions and all
Oh
this,
yeah.
because it's not really spoken about much in the West.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and it can be alienating, and a lot of people can be suffering just from like, what's wrong with me? There's something wrong. I love that you said like you trust the process, like you've learned to just
Completely.
trust it. And that's huge,
Yeah.
because life's gonna move you anywhere
Yeah.
anyways. Like just beyond Kundalini, like trusting in life and what's happening in
Yeah.
your process is powerful.
I think so. And I think I'm naturally predisposed to that because just from experiences I had, like when I went to drama school, we used to do this really cool game where someone stands in the middle of a circle and everyone else is around, obviously, and you just let your body drop. and it's whether or not you trust the people. So you just go limp when you're rigid and you
Go limp.
fall. Yeah, and they pick you up and they push you and you fall. And I always nailed that game to the point where I was like nearly falling flat on my nose, and everyone's like, "Whoa, fucking hell!" You know? So I think that I don't know, maybe I automatically I just have a trust in life that I had. It was a
Yeah.
bit like that before the shift. You know, I was kind of thinking that it was all fine.
Naturally, your
Yeah,
character
yeah,
expression.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. And yeah. And so now you've started a podcast with a friend of yours that's
That's
reached out to you.
yeah.
And
So,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm curious about that.
sure. It was a guy called Tommy who I we found each other through my channel. He posted some stuff saying he was going through very similar movements, and he kind of feels like a soul brother from another mother. You know, he's kind of got this kind of we just have this connection where we're in
Yeah.
similar places with Kundalini wise. You know, I mean, he's 12 years down the line with this process. I'm a year and a bit, so that
Yeah.
makes it interesting. It's an interesting duologues come out of it because he's talking from all these years of experience, and I'm just coming into it. So I think that gives it an interesting vibe. So we've shot one kind of like this format, and I need to technically sort myself out, and then I should be able to post it hopefully today actually, and that will be on my
Yeah.
channel as well as this. And yeah, I think that was
Yeah.
well. We're going to make it a monthly thing, I think, because we've both just got so much to say, and it all wants to come out, So we're just going to
Yeah.
rinse it till it's whatever. But and yeah, if people want to comment or well, yeah, I don't know, yeah, if they want to,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah. No, I was just gonna say it's beautiful because, like I said, initially going through this, you're looking for resources and support, like what the
yeah,
heck,
yeah,
Um, and it's beautiful to have people who are just really down to earth and going through it and talking about their experiences.
absolutely,
Very helpful. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seems to be more and more like looking on YouTube, it seems like a lot of people are going through Kundalini awakening, which is surprising, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I mean, is it, or is it also just the algorithm that the more you type in stuff, the more? I mean, I don't. It's hard to gauge it because of that as well. But because I keep thinking, oh, well, there's so much non-duality these days. But that's what my page is just full of.
Yeah.
It's just because I've clicked on it so many times. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it is happening more and more. I think because it's contagious as well. It's kind of like like it feels like you can kind of even just touch people and they get a little jolt. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it is happening more and more, and if so, then these platforms I think would be very useful. I mean, there's a lot of people that I listen to and friends. I actually talked about Tim Cliss earlier. I met a friend, a very close friend, at a Tim Cliss meeting before the Kundalini awakening, and we just had this kind of
Really?
similar. We had a similar vibe, and he just said to me something like, "Oh, I think you and me are asking the same sort of questions or something," and we took it down his details, and it was when I had the Kundalini, he was the guy I contacted because I just couldn't think of anyone else I could talk to about this. My family still don't really know, and it's been
Wow.
like over a year because because of the market. It's just too weird. I mean, they know signs anyway. I don't want to go into all that, but anyway,
Yeah. No,
I was going to say like this guy I just contacted him. I was like, "Do you know anything about Kundalini? Because I feel like you would know something about it." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm going through the same thing." And he's like 5 years in, and he was great because he was just suddenly we were just WhatsApping each other all the time. Like, did you experience this? Yes, I did. Did you? And it's just great to have that friendship and that support. And you actually
oh
you can create
yeah.
very close friends through Kundalini alone. I mean, you can really find your community.
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful community. And then, after the Kundalini, then it was like, oh, boom into emptiness, nothing, and then finding my community within non-duality.
Mm,
And, it's interesting bridging both because I don't see a problem behind it because um fullness is expressing as fullness, which is every capacity of everything arising. So it's
yeah,
not negating form or like any possibility that this could be,
yeah,
but saying it's an appearance. So basically, what is an appearance? I don't know. but but it appears to arise and dissipate
Yes.
quickly into a story. So we can
Yeah.
say all these things are stories. The Kundalini is a
Sure.
story. And
Could
but
you
that's all we
describe?
have.
Yeah. Could you describe it as content? Like everything is content.
Yeah, that's a way of saying everything is content. Um, everything, anything coming out of your mouth, every
Mm.
word, every expression of it is it being that. So if it chooses to be Hamish with the Kundalini expressing, then
Yeah.
that's the encompassing expression of what it's choosing to be. So it's literally like wanting to be Hamish doing the Kundalini. In a sense it's infinite possibility
Yeah.
arising out of nothing. So like I think everything is fair play, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, I'm
yeah,
not a non-dual, but I don't I kind of into it a lot of that stuff, but it's not really clear for me, so I can't speak in that way anyway.
yeah,
But I do
yeah.
feel like it's totally anything goes. If
Hmm.
duality is essentially non-duality appearing as two, then let it be two. I don't have a problem with that, and I still feel like I'm moving on a timeline and there's a past and a future, but that's no issue here. That's not something that is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, I think like Ram Dass said this. I've heard this before and I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like he spoke to some spirit and said the disembodied membered spirit something I can't remember exactly, but said to him, "Hey, Ram Dass, you're here on Earth, take the curriculum, do it, you're here, do
I love
it,
that.
you
I
know."
love that. Yeah. It's how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking about this maybe before we were recording, but about like, because I'm always wondering why people don't talk about it and when it is kind of taboo. I guess is one of the reasons because it seems special. If we're talking about the end of seeking,
Right.
to suddenly dangle this massive carrot. Hey, look at this magical thing that's going on. Don't you like some of this carrot? And then suddenly it's just another thing to kind of go and grab and get. And it doesn't work like that. It comes simultaneously when seeking is slowing down. So it's kind of paradoxical in that sense.
Yeah, it seems to be a progression of a storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some stories kind of synchronize and some, have love football and some have a Kundalini
That's
awakening,
it.
and that's
That's it.
like
Yeah. You talk, I mean, at the end of the day, you talk about what you love, what excites you, what you're curious about. And for me, is,
yeah.
how could it be anything other,
Yeah, and it's interesting when you hit that sweet spot of things that you love, it just naturally
Mm.
you want to talk about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's not a force like must go to work and do a career I
No.
don't like. It's like the joy of speaking about things that you love with others who can
Yeah.
relate. It's just beautiful,
It's
right?
playful. It's playful. It becomes
Yes.
playful. I'm an actor, so I mean, I've always
Yeah.
hated going to work. I always have to play and do what I love, and that's always what I've done. Otherwise, I can't live if it's not playful, for me.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So now, with the movement of the energy, are you noticing any changes since last we spoke, or is any unravelings, anything new on the horizon?
Not since last we spoke, no. Just still the energy, the continuous yoga, and more energy going to the brain. And actually, yeah, some more peaceful states where energy goes
Peaceful
up
states.
and there's a slight expansion,
Yeah.
and there's just a kind of sinking into this kind of buzzing aliveness, and yeah, and a few sort of no mind states where the chatter calms down and you realize you've
Ah,
been sitting there for a while, and you know,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you
Particularly,
meditate?
occasionally I get high. I take these gummy edibles, and that that exacerbates that feeling. I'm more likely to just sink into one of these states. But they happen naturally. They happen in the past. They happen anytime.
Yeah, it's interesting with the gummies because it's almost like like chatter can happen, but it's almost in the background, almost
Mm,
similar to meditating, right? Do you ever
yes.
meditate or
No,
no?
I think for me, I've always taken a load of psychedelics, and I think for me that was kind of what meditation is to someone else. I was
Yeah.
kind of crazy with it, but it did have a
Yeah.
similar effect whereby stuff comes up, and it's like, okay, you haven't thought about this, and deal with that, and like we were talking about earlier, turning up the dial. I've always enjoyed turning up the dial and just
Yeah.
trying to see what's hidden,
Yeah.
and it's just fascinating and it's fun, And I'm not recommending drugs to people, but I think for me, I'm just that kind of guy, a psychedelic chap. So I enjoy seeing the various effects, but I don't do it all the time.
Yeah, it's interesting. The last guy I interviewed, James, is really like into the medicine and
Yeah,
silent darkness and sitting with it and seeing this. And it's interesting because I feel like the Kundalini was more potent than any psychedelic I've done.
yeah,
I
I would
don't know
say
if
so.
that's like that for you. Yeah.
No, well, I can see the potential is there for it to be way more potent for any sense, like just the way the energy is moving. I mean, I don't know,
Yeah.
has it spoken to you? It's spoken to me a few times. Right at the beginning when the first symptoms were coming in. It asked me to hold my breath for as long as I could. So it'll just be like a voice coming in that goes, hold your breath for as long as you can, and then I just kind of go along with it. So I went, I held my breath as long as I could, and then there was this just massive purge, this kind of like this huge purge. And
Oh,
another time I was in bed and this voice said, I was kind of lost in my own normal, regular thoughts. And the voice behind it said, fast or slow. And I was kind of like, what? And it just went louder and it went fast or slow. And I just said, fast. And then the
of
movement
course.
just started going crazy, crazy, crazy. So it will, yeah, it hasn't done that for a while, but it will just say something, it's far out. But
Yeah.
I've never been a meditator. I've always been ADD. Just the idea. I tried when I used to be into Eckhart Tolle, like it always felt forced to me. I always felt like I was trying to screw
Yeah.
drive my way into presence, like tampering with the system. Some people love it. Tommy, who I speak to, he's a huge fan.
Yeah.
I'd much rather do movement, yoga, dance.
Mhm.
That's just the way I'm built, I think. And now I do, like
Mhm.
I was saying, with these bliss states that come and go, and they're not insane bliss states. They're just sort of gentle, expansive states, but they're never
Mhm.
forced. They only happen when they happen automatically. So if meditation happens, I dig
Yeah.
it. I'll
Yeah.
go with it, but I'll never sit and try and meditate because I kind of
Yeah.
hate it. I'm just doing it because someone told me, it's like what do I
Yeah.
say? And then I have this inner conflict, so I'd rather not have that and go and do what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. You don't have to meditate to
Mm.
get to anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
But if you enjoy it, then that's
Oh
one
yeah.
thing. If
Yeah.
it's calming down the nervous system, I'm right there with you. Like I've never been a meditator. Walking in nature is like a meditation for
Yeah.
me. And like life becomes the psychedelic at some point. You're like, oh yeah, it's this. Right. Although it's fun to do sometimes, those states and different, levels of awareness and stuff. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah, well, they just happen. You can't do anything about them anyway. You just gotta go with it. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, we were talking about earlier, like potentially, we'll do like a few more talks and maybe like open it up to people to come on and discuss
yeah,
with us,
well, I think that'd be great. Yeah,
to give the community support.
yeah,
You're not alone out there.
yeah,
Well, you
absolutely.
are, but
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
yeah,
And then any questions people have from watching my channel or yours, they can just yeah, pop them out at that time, and yeah,
yeah,
try and answer as truthfully as possible. But it always comes down to I don't know what's happening. I have no answers. Not a teacher. Don't know what's going on, but just going with it. That's it, really.
I love that. I love that. You know, the true wisdom is
Yeah.
no wisdom. Like I don't know. This is
I
just what's
don't
seeming to
know.
happen.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
That should be the next face of like instead of an Eckhart Tolle or something like this, you
Yeah.
just go.
I think that's gonna be me. I'm gonna be the new Buddha. It's gonna be. I'll be remembered as the dumb Buddha. You know. Remember
Oh
there was
my
a Buddha 2,000 years ago, and he was just like, "Dude, I didn't know what's happening."
Instead of the Buddha with a smiling face, we'll have your face on it, and it'll be just be
Yeah, just a question mark like that.
like that's perfect. We gotta make
Yeah,
t-shirts.
I
Yeah.
love it. Let's do it. Get on it.
I love it. Yeah, it's just so unpredictable, everything. And just, the person wants to just clench and just hold and
Yeah, understand it.
yeah.
Box it in.
Yeah. So maybe like just, I hate to give prescriptions to people. I really do because everybody's so
Yeah,
uniquely programmed. But like if you could just let go and trust the process, that's a
yeah,
huge, huge thing, right?
yeah. Oh, huge thing. Huge thing.
Yeah.
Trust in it is good. It's yeah. Eventually, you have to go with it anyway. But some people get pushed very forcefully forwards. Some people
Yeah.
get a much more gentler approach. Well, just come over here. Everyone's dealing with it in their own way, and I can't give
Yeah.
prescriptive stuff either. If people I was on a Zoom call and people were asking questions, sort of like, what should I do with intrusive thoughts, and what should I? And like my answer is always, I don't know, but I can only say what I would do in that situation. So rather than saying try this, try that, it's like, well, but I'm more unique. I don't know, but I like this. I usually respond by saying this is what I would probably do, but everyone's different, so
Yeah.
there's no recipe that's gonna
There's no,
suit
no
everyone.
one fits all kind of
No,
recipe.
no,
Yeah. It's just so free flowy. And
yeah,
everybody has a different kind of Kundalini too. Like some people have dramatic, ah, and then some are just more lighthearted, like you,
yeah,
playful and
yeah,
energetic.
yeah,
And yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And it's interesting too, like just speaking with the non-duality community, a lot of people have had the Kundalinis.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what I thought when I first had it. My go-to were all those speakers that I was kind of listening to. And then I started
Mhm.
thinking that maybe they haven't gone through because they don't talk about it so much. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And like we were talking about, and hi Tim, if you're watching this. um, I was at a retreat with him and I was telling him, man, I've been going through some crazy kundalinis at the time. And he was like, that's just what's happening, very
Yeah.
nonchalant. And I was like, no, but I am going through it,
Yeah.
and it was really like very compassionate for him to say to me, it's not very special. It's
Yeah.
not an important something to create an identity out of and then a new storyline around a kundalini.
Yeah.
It's just something that it's so natural.
Yeah.
It's really natural to the human experience.
Yeah.
So yeah. So if somebody's making a new identity, like, oh, I went through a Kundalini, now I can speak to Christ and I'm the next savior. Like,
Yeah, oh yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
happens,
I mean,
right? Yeah.
that's part of my struggle, like Messiah complex and all that sort of thing, because it's just gonna come up. It's so unique, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna think about historical figures with views on their faces, and go, wait, what's happening here? So yeah, it does come up. It comes up here, but it's funny, like I think we've talked about this before. I used to take way too many psychedelics, like insane, and I had some
Uh,
mad Messiah complex on them. It's weird
yeah.
looking back, relating them to this actually, because it was kind of like premonitions, and now I look back, I'm like, fuck, this is crazy. At the time, I was just like, where do I keep losing my mind on psychedelics and thinking I'm going to be this figure? Why do I keep thinking about Christ and all these people, and
Yeah.
I'm just losing my mind. And I'm like, I mean, I've had psychotic breaks with reality. So
Oh,
then when
wow.
this came
Yeah.
about, I kind of felt like it's familiar territory. It's kind of like I've just been
You
to
were
hell and
prepped.
back with this kind of
Yeah.
archetypal thing going on in my head. So it's kind of like at this point, I'm just like, I don't know, man. Yeah, so
Yeah, yeah,
surreal.
yeah. It's interesting. Like I'm not advocating for psychedelics either, but it's like it almost prepped me to surrender for the
Yeah,
big
yeah,
whatever experience it seemed to
yeah,
be, because it was very psychedelic, very almost like a DMT dump.
yeah.
Um, so like if someone's never been through a psychedelic journey and then they had this, I just can't imagine the
That's
fear.
it. That's me
Like you
too.
probably think you're really dying, so
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
I think that's such a great point. Um, yeah, when this started, I think if I'd never gone high, if I'd never tripped or done like, it would have been
Yeah.
mind-bogglingly bizarre.
Right.
Your first thought probably would be, I am now dying, or I am possessed by some evil devil and it's trying to kill me.
Possession, all that sort of
Yeah,
thing.
possession
Oh
is a real
my
thought.
gosh.
Yeah,
That makes me think how much like possession. What about Kundalini and possession? Right? Like all the movements and the crazy, like that could be a
yeah,
correlation there, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, you mean historically speaking? How do you mean? Because that you remember like I don't know if you know anything about the Salem or the Salem witch trials that took place
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
in the Middle Ages or whatever, where they burnt all these people
yeah,
because they thought were witches because they were shaking and they had all this. And there's all sorts of mad
yeah.
theories about these trials. One of them being that the corn was rotten that year, so they all ate rotten bread. It's like with ergot in it, which is like what they
Right.
eventually made LSD out of. So there was like this theory that they're all tripping on ergot and they thought they were witches. But once this shaking start to happen, I was thinking if that happened back then, people just think you're a witch. You're possessed because you look.
Oh yeah.
And even the way
Well,
your body's moving, it's got a kind of elegance. It's not random. It's got like this elegant kind of quality, balletic quality, and so it just seems like something's in you, it's I mean, I suppose
yeah.
energy going through, but
Yeah, 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 that's interesting. Yeah, yeah, just the random movements and that sort of thing that can
yeah,
happen um randomly could
yeah.
be misconstrued as,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
all the sort of things throughout history. That's interesting to think about. Yeah, the
yeah,
witch trials and
yeah.
persecution of people who are
Right.
different for having
Yeah,
this experience.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh. Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna cut it in a minute, but I want to plug your channel
Mhm.
and how people can reach you, all that sort of good stuff.
Sure. So my channel's just called Kundalini and Non-Duality, and it's lots of mainly videos of me going through movement. So that's probably the most fascinating aspects of this here. And then a few things where I just talk to the camera by myself. I'm going to post this as well, and I've just started this new podcast with a guy called Tommy. We've done our first episode. I'll post it probably today or tomorrow, and that'll be a monthly thing. So yeah, lots to watch if you're interested.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So neat to follow your journey. And I'm interested in hearing of Tommy's journey, like 12 years in, you said?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Well,
still
you're welcome to
feeling
come
the
on our
energy.
program, or if you're up for it and talk or whatever. And eventually the
Yeah,
plan is to have guests on. I think we're going to do a few, just the two
yeah,
of us, and then eventually get guests
yeah.
at some point if you want to come and chat. He's great. He's so
Beautiful. Yeah, that's exciting. Yay. Yeah, and if anybody wants to reach out, I'm Leah Spitz on Facebook, and if people contact me, I'm happy to chit chat here and there when I have time to, because I feel a purpose of being here to help ease the suffering of others. And I know it sounds like I'm thinking about this as I'm saying it, because I do have a radical non-duality podcast, but in the same token, there's an appearance of others and there is suffering. And that's something that I can't deny. So the compassionate aspect of being there to help anybody in need. And I think that's beautiful. And the more people that do that, the more beautiful the connectivity, and life gets very rich and juicy. So yeah, just being supportive. And Anywho, so I want to thank you so much, Hamish.
You're
And
welcome. Thank you.
yeah, we'll continue these chats
Yeah.
and the progress and development of different topics popping up, and we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. And
Awesome.
yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'm going to end the recording.
Cool.